So it's already 10 minutes up.
Yeah.
So you can't stay up, but so the idea is a credit limit is the maximum amount you can spend. So it's the maximum amount the bank is willing to lend you on this credit card. Okay, so you might have a credit limit of $1,000, $1,500, up to some people have credit limits of hundreds of thousands. Okay, there are cards out there which have hundreds of thousands of dollars of credit limit. And then there's different, well, credit limits is based on the credit history. If you're aware of credit history, it just means when banks have lent you money in credit cards or loans, it's recorded in this central place about how you repay it. So if you're late on repayments all the time, if you default on any repayments, if you happen to do something bad with it or whatever, misuse it somehow, then that all gets recorded in your credit history. Which means that later on, when someone looks to, they want to lend you money, they say, oh, look at the credit history, it's not very good. So we're not going to lend you as much, or we might not lend you any money because you have a bad credit history. But basically, as long as you do your repayments on time, as long as you don't max it out all the time and are able to pay it off every time, then your credit history is okay. Not a huge deal as long as you're responsible with it. So then you have cards which have like annual fees. Okay, usually if you don't have an annual fee, it means the interest rate is very high. Okay, if the interest rate is lower, then you have an annual fee. And then you see on the TV all these reward points like Citibank, if you go, you get $3 of wine at certain restaurants if you use your credit card. Or Virgin Velocity card where you get four free flights a year if you have this credit card and use a certain amount. Blah blah blah. All these things. Which ones? There you go. So all sorts of things that apparently attract people to have a credit card. There you go. And apparently it must work, they do it. Yes. Okay, so, and then a minimum payment, just terminology, is the amount you're required to pay each month. So it's the minimum amount you're required to pay. So, no, you don't have to spend anything. So there's a limit, that's a credit limit, that's a maximum. But a lot of places don't allow you to spend. Say you're buying a car, you can only put a limit of like $2,500. You're putting a deposit, say $5,000 on the car. They only say you can do $2,500 with a credit card. Because there's percentage fees associated with for the retailer for you to use your credit card. So if you're spending too much, the percentages go up. All this stuff. But the minimum payment usually is about worked out as between 2 and 5% of your monthly balance. Okay, so they look at your balance outstanding on your card, work out that sort of reasonably small percentage, and then say, this is how much you need to pay this month. Basically, they just say to cover interest that's going to go on your account. Now, the thing is, there's recent legislation that says on your credit card statement, there has to be a box at the bottom that says if you pay every month, if the balance stays the same, and you don't spend any more money on this card, and you only pay the minimum repayment, it would take this many years to pay it off. I got one recently, I was supposed to try, I had a look, it said for what I was owing, if I paid just the minimum, it would take me 9 years to pay it off. So the minimum is a very small amount that you've got to, and you pay like some huge amount of interest, which I'm not really interested in doing. So, but that's the sort of terminology with credit cards. Right, and credit card interest is worked out daily. All right, they add it on per day, and they work it out per day, and at the end of the month it's added on, but it's compounded daily, so that they maximize their money that they get from it. And the other thing is you'll see this thing called interest-free period. I'll just highlight it. Usually, for whatever it is, it's 55 days. So what that means is, if your balance is zero to start with, and you spend some money, from the point where you start spending it, you have 55 days where they won't charge any interest. All right, once that 55 days is over, then the interest will kick in and you'll start paying interest on that amount. But as long as you pay off anything you do within 55 days of when you spend it, you won't ever pay interest. You just pay annual fees on your cards. Okay? So that's a little bit about credit cards. So just move it up. Pick up here. I can come back. Okay, Tristan has a credit card with an interest rate of 14% per annum. Okay, he spent $1,500 on his credit card. What is the monthly interest rate, the daily interest rate, the minimum repayment, if minimum repayment is 4.5% of the outstanding balance? Okay? It's basically just a question, a percentage question. We've got part A. So interest rate is 14% per annum. So how are we going to work out the monthly interest rate? Divided by 12. Okay, so 14% divided by 12 equals 1.3. One point one. Fine, 1.1. And so 14 divided by 12 equals 1.11%. Yeah, that's per month. How do we work out the daily interest rate? Daily interest rate, Jordan? How many days in a year? What do we have to divide 14? Yeah, that's good. 14 divided by 365, which is equal to some fairly small number. Oh, you don't need to use it for some. 0.00038. Is that 14 divided by 365? Yeah, okay, so you put it to, that's fine. 0.038. Thank you. Okay, so that's how much interest you're paying daily, which doesn't seem like much. Hey, it's 8, you idiot! You can listen to anything you say. Okay. And then the minimum repayment, if the minimum repayment is 4.5% of the outstanding balance, well, we have to work out what 4.5% of 1,500 is. How do we do that? 4.5 over 100 times 1,500 equals, it's going to be 67.5. $67.50. So he has to pay back $67.50 minimum. That's minimum payment, which means he'll keep up with paying up the interest and stuff, but it takes a long time to pay it off. He just keeps it the minimum. Okay, any questions about that? We're familiar with how to find the monthly, daily interest rates. Okay, it's daily divided by 365, monthly divided by 12, weekly divided by 52. Right, you're just dividing it into equal parts across the year. And then to find a percentage of something, it's the same as what we've been through. Alright? So this example, I'll just read it out. So Sarah spends $57 on shoes, $130 on a new dress, and $65 for a meal out, and uses her credit card. The credit card has an interest rate of 12% per annum with a 55-day interest-free period. A, how much does she owe? And if she pays it back after 70 days, how much interest does she pay? Okay, so there's a couple of things we need to do here. But we'll just do the first one. How much does she owe? Well, you just add up the bits that she spent. Is it? 252. Okay. Part A, just add it up. 57 plus 130 plus 65 equals 252. Right, second part. Got to do a couple of things. First thing is, for the first, if she pays it back after 70 days, for the first 55 days she doesn't pay any interest. So you can think of it as that's just wiped out. So there's 15 days worth of interest. So she pays 15 days of interest. Okay, Yeah, that's our first thing. And then get the cost of time. If you show your face, then you get marked off. Alright, so there's 15 days of interest that she has to pay. Then we have to work out the daily interest rate. Anyway, if you're here 15 minutes ago, you were late. It's 0.102 now. The daily interest rate, what is it? 12%? Yeah, 12% divided by 365. Yeah. What's 12 divided by 365? Oh, we're going to come to that in a second. Sorry? 0.0328%. Alright? No, you don't mind about 15. Now we're going to say, we're going to use compound. It's compounded. Credit cards are always compound. Every day it's compound. So the period that we have now, we're going to think about it as 15 days, n equals 15, for 15 days, the number of periods, and the rate equals 0.000328. That's the percentage as a decimal. Alright, so we know what the principal is, 252. We know what the periods are, it's 15. We know what the rate is. So, A is equal to 252 times 1 plus 0.000328 to the power of 15. Okay? So what is that? We're working out, we're compounding it over 15 days, which each day we consider one period. Compound it over that time. 252 times. That's how much she owes. You don't need to say where the hell, just say where did you get it from. $253.24. So the interest is equal to 253.24 minus 252, which is equal to $1.24 in interest. That's our amount of interest you pay in 15 days if you've not paid it off in 55 days. That's from the question. See how she spent 57, 130, 65? That's the first one. How much does she owe? That's how much she owes. Oh, right. Okay, any questions about that? So, there's a few sort of things we need to be thinking about. You've got to change it into the daily rate. You've got to think about how many days you actually pay interest on it, the interest-free period. You got to then answer the question. Is it looking for how much do you owe after that? Or is it saying how much in interest has the person paid? Okay, which means you have to subtract the principal from it. And then compound interest formula as well. Oh, yes. Well, because it's not simple interest. It's compound. Always. Never use simple interest rate. Basically, only in special simple interest rate is simple. The default is the compound, but that's what happens. Okay? Alright. So if you need to copy anything down,